Welcome to Cellmates.
Ooh, welcome to Cellmates.
My name is Kate Phillips.
My name is Dick Ward.
And we are a podcast that takes two animated movies. We compare, contrast them, generally throw them into a Venn diagram. Often these movies are Disney.
But not always.
Often these are musicals.
But not always.
Often they are good.
Not always.
Often there are two co-hosts for this podcast.
Often they're sitting in the same room.
But not always.
Not always.
Whoa!
Whoa! How did you get on the line? Who is this?
Yeah. The call is coming from inside the podcast.
Uh-oh.
I mean, same
special
room and the same state is what we normally do.
Special guest.
Yes.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Shmeesh McLongington.
There's no way that's true.
No, it's not. It's me, Andy Phillips, the brother of Kate
Oh,
Phillips.
brother of the podcast.
Brother of the podcast. not of Kate, of the podcast.
Of the podcast.
Of the podcast.
Yeah. And as usual, when we have Andy on, we're almost certainly going to be talking about some super things.
Super something.
Super something.
And
although,
it's Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, usually it is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's true.
And usually you are visiting New York.
Yeah.
But that is not happening right now because no one's allowed to visit anything.
There are a few things going on right now.
There are a few things going on.
Welcome to our first socially distanced guest.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that. Oh, I'm honored.
Yeah.
Is that the first guest in general? Or no, there are more.
You are you are not the only guest, but you are, I think, the first guest.
Either Andy or Serena?
I think Andy's episode was first, but
Nice.
I am not
Good job,
sure.
Andy.
Yeah.
Congrats.
All you do you have a name for your listeners? Like all good podcasters
listeners.
do? Oh,
yes,
okay.
we have all of their names.
Comment in the comment section below when my first episode was.
Do it.
Smash that like button. What?
Yeah, so this is something that we could have been doing all along, but now there's better software available for free because everyone is podcasting from home now.
Yeah, so the software was always available, but now it's free.
Yeah.
So that's great. Kate.
And the podcast software is now free, if that wasn't made clear before.
So it's free now. Is that what you're saying?
Said, are we paying for this?
No, you're not.
Okay. Hey, Kate.
Yeah.
What you drinking?
I am drinking a double cream ale, not to be confused with a double dream hands, but a double cream ale that goes by the name of Ambition is a Dream.
Ooh. Andy, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a gin and ginger ale of evil.
Of evil?
Ooh.
Oh, that's so spooky.
That sounds so much different than a gin and ginger ale.
It does, yeah. It's brings out different tendencies, you see.
What's the ratio of gin and ginger ale to evil? Is it like 1 for 1, or is it?
So it's like 3 parts ginger ale to 1 part gin, and then there's 2 parts evil though. So,
ooh, wow,
yeah, it's pretty strong on the evil.
Yeah, that sounds good though.
Yeah, so yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Kate, what movies did we do?
So instead of talking about superheroes this episode, we're talking about super villains.
What?
Specifically, the movies Despicable Me and Megamind.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is this was maybe on our original list of pairings before we even started recording. Dick, is that correct?
I mean, probably, right? Yeah, almost certainly. It's been something we've been meaning to get to for a long time because it's kind of a natural pairing. And we've had a couple of people like write in and not as their main suggestion. They've been like, hey, here's this great thing. But also, have you guys considered Despicable Me and Megamind?
Yeah.
It's like everyone's like kind of by the way, why haven't you done this? It's just something you should do.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who threw that into the ring. It might be our most requested episode if we count ourselves, right?
Yeah. That's true.
So you're welcome, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these two movies are about villains. Like those are the protagonists, respectively, of the movies. Which on its own seems like enough to pair them. And then there are like a surprising amount of additional similarities, including the use of, former Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch managers as voice cast,
as leads,
protagonist voice cast, and literally named minions in both movies.
Minions named Minions.
How did that happen?
One minion named Minion. The minions in Despicable Me have actual names.
The minions do have names.
That is true.
Yeah.
But collectively, they are minions.
They are Minion. Yes, like Legion. We are Minion. We are strong.
Should we... So it seems like this is one of those things like Ants and Bugs Life where like someone got a whiff of someone else, right? But that doesn't necessarily make sense here.
They got a whiff, but they made a different dish.
Right. But so here's the thing, like DreamWorks, notorious for stealing ideas off of other people and then making kind of weird choices about them. Because Despicable Me does come out first, and it is not the DreamWorks. Megamind is DreamWorks, but Despicable Me is Illumination. It's their first feature, and Sergio Pablo, who wrote the story, not the screenplay, but the story, they've done all the other Despicable Me and Minions. They did Klaus, which we did on an earlier episode that was on Netflix. So, but this was Illumination's. Smallfoot was Illumination?
Smallfoot was Sergio Pablo's.
Oh, yeah. That's why it was so good.
Maybe he needed to get one out of his system and then make better stuff.
Oh, it sounds like Andy has some feelings on Despicable Me.
Yo, I took notes. I know I mentioned that before, but for the audience, they were not privy to that conversation. I took notes during these movies.
Andy's got notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. One I did during my work day, which I didn't get behind at all. So here we are.
Working from home is great.
Working from home is great.
So let's start with Despicable Me.
Yeah.
Because it did come out like 6 months earlier. This was summer 2010. Megamind is like November 2010.
What? That's not right. It's 2007.
What?
Megamind?
No, Despicable Me.
No. Release date June 19th, 2010.
Well, don't I have egg on my face?
Can you hear the sound of Andy's mind exploding?
I have egg on my shirt. That's from this morning.
I have egg on my carpet because I took a bite out of an egg biscuit and the yolks were still runny, and it's just like that, like lava that comes out of the egg yolk. Anywho,
go in the comments below to tell us where you have egg right now. Mash that egg button.
Mash that egg button.
Way to plant egg.
Oh boy!
All right, Andy, what is your history with Despicable Me?
Yeah.
The movie, no, regardless of what year it did come out.
Sure, or what it did to me. I think I saw it in college, like after it came out on DVD. One of my friends was like really into it, and it was probably for the Minions that we were thus all subjected to the movie. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like, oh, let's watch this. I'm like, okay, it looks like an animation, so that's cool. So yeah, not a whole lot outside of that. I've seen it like a handful of times, maybe.
Dick?
Despicable Me. So I remember seeing the preview in theaters and being like, "Oh, that looks funny." So the preview, I think, was basically like the opening scene of the film.
The pyramid snatch.
Yeah, it was something to do with those, and I was like, "Oh, well, that looks fun." And then I didn't see it until like 3 or 4 years ago, and I haven't seen none of the sequels, nor have I ridden the ride. So just this movie. How about you, Kate?
Yeah, I watched this brand new for the podcast. I've been aware of it the whole time, and people have, told me over time, like, oh, it's pretty good. And obviously it's unavoidable to escape the Minions. So I know a little bit about them.
Do you have an aunt?
But not that much.
Do you use Minion memes? Then yes.
Do you have an aunt?
It's unavoidable. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have an aunt.
Yeah, they kind of like superseded, I feel, the movie in a lot of ways. And they have their own, do they have multiple movie spinoffs? Right, there is a Minions movie. Is there like a Minions
movie?
I guess the ride is Minions.
I think 3 Despicable Me's, a Minions movie, a Minions ride, and then probably like Minion shorts.
Yeah, I would say Minion shorts, like 5 or 10 minute things that posted places.
Yeah, so definitely just like the memes preceded this movie for me. And like for the longest time, I didn't really I had to remind myself every time where Minions were from, or like the girl who's obsessed with unicorns because they're so fluffy. Like I had to look up where that was from, like every time I saw it for a couple of years. But yeah, other than that, this was my what?
Oh, continue. Finish your sentence there.
No, I was going to say, other than that, I have no more information to add.
Do you have any more information? No. The Minions speak, I think it's a mix of gibberish and actually like Portuguese. Since I believe, what was his name?
Sergio Pablo.
Sergio Pablo. I would imagine he is possibly Brazilian. Let me.
His animation studio is in Spain, right? So
yeah, he's from Spain.
It could just be like Portugal.
He is from Spain. That is true. Yeah, but it's Portuguese, at least in part. So
interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's just gibberish. They're like, you know how internet comments are, just like, get woke, you idiot.
Actually.
And also Julie Andrews was the mom, so that's
oh yeah, I remember seeing her name in the opening credits and then forgetting.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh, it's Gru's mom?
Yeah, she does a great.
I've never heard Julie Andrews. Yeah, I've never heard her do an accent before that doesn't just sound like Julie Andrews.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I guess Eliza Doolittle, but still, it's still Julie Andrews.
It's Julie Andrews. Let's be honest.
So let's talk about this movie.
Let's go for it.
Who's going to summarize this thing?
You are.
Oh.
That's what I have written down anyway.
I will make sure to point out the important roles played by Mindy Kaling, Rob Hubel, Ken Jeong, Danny McBride as random tourists in the movie. Yeah. I'll make sure to point them out because that was worth having them for.
That was worth that. I got 2 minutes on the cookie timer.
Jack McBrayer twice.
Okay, but he's great.
Yeah. All right, Dick, ready?
Oh, born ready.
Set. Summarize.
Okay, so we open on the Pyramid of Giza. Oh no, this chubby tourist kid falls on it and it's not really a thing. It's like inflatable. Someone stole it. And then we cut to Gru, who's like our bad guy. Did Gru steal the pyramid? No, he didn't do that.
140.
So anyway, Gru, he's like a bad guy and he's trying to steal the shrink ray and he's trying to steal it from this dude Vector, who stole it from him, and he's going to do that by adopting children, making them pretend to be, or making them go sell Girl Scout cookies to the bad guy, to the other bad guy.
Vector.
Look, to Vector.
116.
And thank you. And he's going to steal the shrink ray. And he does. And then he and Vector fight. And then Gru like steals the moon. And then he puts it back. And Gru really likes the girls. He's all like, oh, I don't want to give you up now. And then he gives them up because he has to steal the moon. And then later he ungives them up. And there's a ballet recital.
You have until 1740 on the recording clock.
I'm not looking at that. So,
well, you've got 40 seconds left.
Seriously?
Uh-huh.
35.
Okay. So, also, Gru has a big nose, and he has minions, and these minions go, but possibly in Portuguese. And
can we have a translation of that in post?
No. And also, like, Gru needs to get a loan from the Bank of Evil.
No problem.
And then he can't pay the minions, which I didn't know he was doing. I thought they were like his
cookies are done.
minions.
Cookies are done.
So yeah, that's Despicable Me. It has
kind of.
It has some plot problems.
It has multiple plots.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And they're like all kind of tied to the same person. So it's not even like subplot. It's just a lot of forks.
It's a lot of Gru plots.
A lot of
forks?
Like forks off the same road.
Oh, okay.
You know, like
I thought
there are a lot
like
of forks in this movie.
A lot of forks in this movie.
This
kind of like Beauty and the Beast, but
this episode, y'all, comes out on May the Forks. So may the forks be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very kind.
Did you leave your computer, Andy? Where are you?
Did I leave my computer?
Are you like down the block?
Oh, I was refilling my drink, and then I thought my microphone was attached to my headphones.
This isn't this isn't a phone call. This is a very professional podcast.
I'm sorry. Can I still refill my drink though? My gin and tonic of evil.
Go for it.
Do it quick because you have to come back and summarize the next movie. Hey, Kate.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Megamind.
Well, can we finish what I was talking about? There's just a lot of forks.
A lot of forks.
Like I feel like Despicable Me has a lot of really like somewhat interesting, well-intentioned like starters of like conflict like arcs that don't really fit with each other. They kind of like go on these parallel tracks the whole time. And in a Pixar, like kind of the standard, the gold standard for like storytelling in the Good Dentist. Like you expect those forks to then like come together in some really interesting ways. And that doesn't happen here. And like for a first, studio attempt at an animated film, like animated films are really hard.
Yes.
And so,
it felt like it was like I found myself laughing at like the slapstick and the like little goofs and gaffs they did more than the actual storyline.
Yes.
So like they were better at that. I was laughing in spite of myself. Like, oh, this isn't funny. And then like the whole like Mission Impossible thing with the shrink ray in Vector's house. And just Vector in general just made me laugh. But yeah, I was just like, oh, there's that ending was just like, there was stuff that happened, and oh look, we're at another ballet recital. Like it just the stakes weren't there.
Like it's about parenting, and it's about choosing something bigger than yourself,
and shrinking it down.
About like
I believe the word you're looking for is movie.
It's just about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, what about
the
other movie we watched, Megamind.
Megamind.
Okay.
Yeah, Andy, tell us about your experience with Megamind.
Oh, with Megamind. My Megamind
Otherwise known as
testimony.
Megamind.
Also known as Megamind.
Oh my gosh.
What is
Megaman
my...
B.
How do you say it in Portuguese gibberish?
What's my Mega Man testimony? I was not about this movie when I saw the previews and everything. I'm like, oh, this is just like another Will Ferrell movie. All of his movies, as much as I enjoy some of them, are the same. Like, he starts off at the top, gets brought down a bunch of pegs, and then has to like climb his way back up to a new place. Like, just think about how Talladega Nights is the same as Elf, is the same as Semi-Pro, is the same as like anything he's done. So he's got a style.
I'm sorry, Andy. You might hear my mind exploding over here.
Yeah, right. You didn't think about it until
I didn't think about it. They're all the same.
That's also kind of this movie.
Yeah.
Well, in a different way, I feel, because he adopted the persona, but like of Brennard, whatever his name was. Anywho, when I finally saw it, I was like pleasantly surprised. I think it was a long time of like, oh, like this is dumb, like I'm not gonna enjoy this, and then like fine, I'll watch it. It was on something or someone had the DVD in college, and then when I did, boom, it was like, oh, this is good. This is well thought out. Like, this is like a superhero movie, but not. And I appreciated that, even when I was more like gung ho about superhero movies in college. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure that I was aware that this movie was out when it was out. Like, I feel like I discovered it a couple years later, and I'm like, oh, is this just kind of like Despicable Me? From what I understand, because I hadn't seen either movie.
I should do a podcast about both of them in a couple of years.
That's where it all began. So I also saw this one for the first time for this episode, but yeah, like I also enjoyed it. I think it has some narrative, muddle to it as well. But yeah, it's. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I get what you're saying, Andy, about like, oh, it's just another Will Ferrell movie, and in some ways it is, but I think it works in the ways that it is, and the ways that it is different are pleasantly surprising, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, this movie was like, I saw the preview and I was like, cool, I'm never watching that. And I kind of wish I had. It's all right.
Well, now you have, so you can't say that anymore.
Well, I could say anything I want to. It's a free country.
This is true.
All right, Andy, I am setting another cookie timer for 2 minutes. And so, are you looking at the timestamp on the podcast recording thing?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to start it, and you have until 27:05. Go.
Okay, so Megamind starts off with a Superman parallel. 2 babies are rocketed from planets that are being destroyed. They both land on Earth. One is in a super wealthy home. Megamind ends up in a jail, and the prisoners teach him how to think and everything. So they end up going to the same school. Megamind is shown over and over that like bad doesn't win, and he wants to keep on impressing the kids. Metro Man is constantly like foiling him, even as a child. But then he's just like, no, screw this, I'm going to be bad. So he just like goes for it full tilt. Then there's montage of like their fights, Megamind and Metro Man, and then you get to.
We've got a minute left.
Oh shit! The city dedicating everything to Metro Man. Megamind finally defeats him in a weird act, and he takes over the city. But then he realizes like this isn't as fun as I thought it would be. So he goes to the Metro Man Museum, and blows it up. But then he also takes the identity of this research guy and falls in love with Tina Fey's character. I forget her name.
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. And they become like back and forth. You see that Megamind's not as villainous as once thought. So he decides to make a hero for the city for himself to fight because he's like, oh, I'm bad, so I'm gonna fight the hero. He turns Jonah Hill into a superhero. That backfires. Jonah Hill's crazy in this movie. What? Mistake. Yeah. And then he ends up being the hero in the end by defeating Jonah Hill, and he realizes like, I'm a bad guy, but not a bad guy. And he becomes the new savior of the city.
That was pretty good.
Nice.
Excellent.
I did. I was really worried when you got halfway through and you were only in like the prologue.
Yeah, I was in the first like 15 minutes.
Like, oh no, this movie has not said the word Megamind on screen yet. Like, oh.
What is this? Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark?
We need to talk about that.
Did you watch? Have you seen it?
No, I need to hear your all's impression of it.
Yeah, we watched it yesterday.
This will be an off-air conversation because we have a lot to say about Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
Hear Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah, smash that subscribe button.
I don't know. I think there's a case for that whole thing being a villain that we could talk about.
That moon button. Yeah. So, what's next?
Interestingly, this was the ants of the two, right? Like this lost. If there's only one villain movie that can survive the year 2010, Despicable Me won.
Oh yeah,
the culture war at least,
gotcha.
Right?
Yes, very much so. There's no sequel to this movie. There is a short that I found out about after I watched Megamind.
Yeah, it was like released with the DVD or something.
Most likely. It's just like 15-minute little thing where like he's the good guy and he's selling off all of his evil gear.
Fun.
But then there's a robot that he forgot about, and they've like take him out with like the remaining gear that they have, him and Minion. So yeah, it was a nice little follow up there. He was trying to like have Metro Man's powers and whatnot, but he's like, no, I need to do this my way.
Yeah. Andy, until you gave us the summary there, I forgot about my favorite part of the movie, which is that he crash lands into a jail. So they just keep him in jail as a baby.
Right.
Like he's a prisoner. Like he belongs there.
She's like, well, you landed in a jail. Therefore, you are in jail now.
Clearly,
your tiny orange jumpsuit.
Yeah. Or you a tiny prisoner, sir. But yeah, all the prisoners are just like, it was just a real innocent way of being like, no, cops are bad guys. Burglars are good guys. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I was like, yeah, movie. I'm on your side here.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, it was just, it's a fun movie. They're both fun movies in their own way, but Megamind's just more of I feel like I know this world when I'm done watching it.
Yeah, I find Megamind a little bit like it's simpler, right? Like it's a narrower focus, even though it's like these, supernatural powers and kind of epic battles, but you only meet like a couple of characters and really you just have like two characters that you're following the whole time through. And
yeah, I will say the city feels like Superman 64 in that like it's just kind of like ghost town at times.
Yeah.
So like that's my only. I can make a few references to other things that are like, oh, like this is like a great game or a great movie, but like where the hell were the other people? Like
where's all the other life?
It definitely feels unpopulated or underpopulated.
So speaking of, I think one of the things that really makes Megamind clearer for me is that I know what the villain does. Does that make sense?
You know who Megamind is as a villain. Like you are introduced to his villainous works in the first act. you know, like where he's coming from. If both these movies are, I mean, and it's more or less predictable that if a movie is going to focus on a villain, they're probably not going to be a villain by the end. Like,
right.
So that part is a little bit laid out in, you know, in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
But
also, like, I just
has a clear start point for the villain.
Yeah, and I just get who Megamind is. Like, we see that he's a villain, but also, like, he kidnaps someone and he fights a good guy, and we see that that's kind of like, it's kind of a day in the life for him. And it's established early on.
Mm-hmm. He's compared to like Gru. I keep on wanting to say Groot. Compared to Gru, who was like more malicious. Like, this was just what you said, like a day in life. It's like, this is just his, like, he's not a nefarious villain, right? He's like the idea of a bad guy. He's
the idea of a bad guy.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I should do because, and I'm gonna go do it now.
Yeah, Gru for me, it brings Despicable Me has the Cars problem for me, where, like, you know how Cars, it's like, oh, it's a movie about cars, got
Cars
it,
3,
and then
PTSD.
They're like, no, just the first one though. They're like, oh, we've got to get this, we've got to get the economy of this small town going again, and I'm like, well, what's the economy? Why? What do you need? Do you have money? Like, Despicable Me is the same thing where he's like, he's driving around in this like rocket car and all this crazy stuff, and then he's like a major plot point is that he needs to get a loan from the bank so that he can steal the moon.
You don't.
Which
you don't have any reference by like montage or anything that's just like, oh, like I need to do this. Like, all these other things have failed.
Yeah, like it's not really in the text that Gru is a villain other than them telling you it, right? Like, if that first pyramid scene
tell you, not show you.
Yes, that's what movies are for.
If that first that opening pyramid stealing scene was Gru doing it, you're like, oh, okay, these are the kind of heists he does. Like, you do only need that one example, and then you see his like evil car and evil layer. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get the type.
In my memory,
it's not even
that was him.
No, it's not. That's Vector.
It was Vector.
That's what I'm saying. In my memory, before I rewatched this.
Oh, gotcha. You're like,
like when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is where Gru steals the pyramid, and then, oh, it's not.
False.
Oh, it's a different character.
And that's so. Andy, you've seen this movie multiple times. I think. Well, Dick, you have too. Like, are we given any precedent for Gru? Like, do we know any of his past villainous deeds?
No, I think the other movies fill that in.
So
in some regard, which is not a good thing.
I kind of have a fuzzy memory of like maybe you pass like a newspaper wall or something.
So Gru, in again true excellent movie making tradition, tells everyone. There's a speech he does to the Minions before he announces that they're going to steal the moon, and he's like, we stole. But he can't. Like, it didn't even make sense there because he's like, we stole the Empire State Building from Las Vegas,
Statue of Liberty,
Statue of Liberty from Las Vegas.
So he's not a good. Well, and that's maybe part of the point, right? Is like,
but also the Statue of Liberty in Las Vegas is still like 20, 30 feet high. It's not. Like
it's not to scale when you see it in there.
It looks like he stole a knickknack from a store.
Yeah,
which is a fine joke, but it needs to make sense,
right? And so, like, those moments made me like laugh louder than anything like Gru said. It's like, oh, like he's not good at his job.
He's not good at it. Yeah,
that's funny.
I can't tell if he's supposed to be good or bad at being a villain.
And that's the thing, is that it's unclear. Like, you just got to choose one, and it makes more sense that he is bad at his job, right? If he's like continually going back to his mom in his head and like trying to impress her, but also like. He hasn't done anything impressive yet, right?
No, he hasn't. Right.
Like, you're kind of on mom's side. You're like, well, you're not very good at this.
Yeah.
Whereas it would be more powerful if he had stolen the actual Statue of Liberty and mom was like, eh.
Yeah, it's funny if he does impressive things and she's not impressed, but he does unimpressive things and she's not impressed. And it's like, well, yeah, That's not impressive.
Right.
No, you're bad at math. I'm good at math.
Yeah, she's right. You suck.
Yeah.
So for Gru, it's more about he's like a curmudgeon character, and that's what makes him a villain.
He's a little bit Ed Asner in Up.
Mm-hmm.
Like this movie and Up are not dissimilar. Like he's a curmudgeonly guy that doesn't want anyone else in his life. He just wants to do his own big adventure. And then some like kids come into his life and show him that there's more than just the adventure. Like,
yes,
it's kind of similar.
That. Yeah, it is kind of similar. And yeah, curmudgeon plus young equals adventure.
Curmudgeon. Good.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to be a curmudgeon.
So like he's not as likable as Megamind. Like I do think your villains need to be likable, right? We had that problem, Dick, in watching the new Lion King, that like, well, I don't like Scar. Like I don't admire him in the 94 version, but I really like watching him on screen. In the 2019 version, I could not care less.
By the new Lion King, do you mean that National Geographic special that we had on while we listened to the audio from the Lion King?
The National Geographic special directed by Jon Favreau, yes.
Yeah. Oh, John. Look, we all need a third summer home, but you know, that Marvel money, you think, and the Star Wars money would have been enough, but
yeah. John, just give it up. You're done. Yeah. It's cool.
You got your chef show. That's great. It's adorable. Yeah. Yeah, Gru, I just didn't like. I not dreaded, but I'm just like, oh, he's on screen again. Like everyone else in that movie, like I liked Vector more than him because at least Vector had like a fun little thing about it, and like what accent was Steve Carell doing? Like a moderate Eastern European accent? Like
there's a little like Mike Myers Shrek going on here where it's like, oh, you just wanted to do a voice.
Right, and no one stopped you because
no one said no.
And they should have, because you're not a voice actor, sir. That's not
right. So Andy, you bring us to a good pivot point, because you know, if it's maybe not Gru that is the appeal of this movie over, you know, Will Ferrell's Megamind, you know, what you know on paper looks like made Despicable Me kind of the winner of this faux battle.
Dr. Nefario.
Is the ensemble cast, right? Like,
yeah,
it's everything else that's happening.
Exactly.
Including Dr. Nefario.
Yes, as Russell Brand, as Dr. Nefario.
Just like, why would you have Russell Brand in a movie where he doesn't sound like Russell Brand? His voice is hilarious. Why, like
Russell? Yeah. No, exactly. Nefario was great. Like the Minions, they had multiple people as the Minions. Jermaine
Clement was it? Yeah, exactly.
Why the hell do they have different voices? You can't tell because they're gonna pitch them up and alter them beyond recognition. Like, he's like, honestly, I have kids now, so they need this movie, and I'll be like, Dad's in this movie, and they're like, where? And he's like, oh shit.
Like, honestly, I think that's kind of funny. Like, I think that is the joke a little bit. That like, well, no, Jermaine Clements is unrecognizable, right? Like, is undifferentiable to anyone else.
If I was Jermaine Clement, I would take that gig.
Yeah, like, I think that's funny as opposed to like Mindy Kaling, who has one line as a tourist in the prologue, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she was the mom?
She was the mom tourist.
Oh.
So weird.
That was weird. Also, I mentioned this before. Jack McBrayer has two parts, and that's just bad voice casting. Like,
it's weird.
Because Jack McBrayer can only do one voice, and he does that voice extremely well. But there's only one.
There's only one. So, like, even if you're a small child who doesn't have, like, voice recognition, you're going to be like, wasn't that the dad from the beginning of the movie?
Yeah. Did that dad Get a job at this carnival?
And get a lot skinnier and taller. Like that just makes me mad from a technical standpoint. That like that's what happened. But yeah, usually I'm not one for like I don't know. Children ensembles are you got to use them right. You can't just be like, oh yeah, like we're kids, we're cute, and but yeah, I mean, not having seen this movie for I don't know 7 or 8 years, Agnes is still pretty adorable.
Yeah,
watching that on repeat would, as a parent, I would go insane. But like the So Fluffy is gonna die, and just some of her lines are just like I can't remember what I was watching. But
Agnes
like,
is the youngest one, right?
Right. It's like the 30-year-old child that's just like, oh, you shouldn't know about those things, but it's cute because your voice is so high.
Yeah, I think the girls are one of the better executed parts of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was in agreement that I'm like, oh, this is just going to weigh down the fun. But actually, like, it makes it more fun. And it does, like, there were some legitimately, like, heartfelt, affecting scenes in this movie. And they all involve the girls.
They're the heart of the movie. And, like, honestly, if they weren't there, I would not care about it. Because you only care about Gru at all in this movie because the girls grow to love him. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, I guess I love Gru? I don't know.
Yeah, right. It tricks you. It's just like, oh, yes, you too love Gru. Yes.
It's like, well, you love these characters and they love Gru, so...
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like,
if these 3 children jumped off a bridge to Gru, would you? Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Gru's gonna catch... I'm marrying my own brother. In love with me. Me.
So yeah.
It's not the main character arc that's really compelling in this. Like, even though it's nice that he, like, becomes someone who wants to be, like, a good father, especially with his parent issues. But again, it's not quite developed enough to really make it land.
The only time I believe him is in the 3rd act when they're in the ship again. I don't know why no one told him that the ship got big again. They're just like, oh, that's weird. Okay, let's go steal a moon.
Yeah, his shrink ray wears off. That's kind of the deal. He's got a shrink ray, and it wears off and stuff gets big again.
But they don't know that till after they've already shrunk the moon.
Yes,
or he doesn't.
They do have an interesting point of like, oh, like the bigger the mass, the less time it holds its shrinkage. Because they had shrunk a minion at one point, and like it was weeks before that minion was big again.
I love that, by the way. Like, I don't know whether like it was just hard for me to follow or I was sleepy when we watched this, but I missed the minion being shrunk. And so I just noticed in that tea party scene, I'm like, that minion is holding a small minion. What? It was a great reveal.
You loved that moment.
I really did. Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. I know everyone is minioned out in 2020. I really love the minions in this movie. Like, I think it's fun. I think it doesn't really make sense. Like, you could, if you want to cut some fat out of this movie, probably the minions make logical sense to cut out.
I'd cut a lot of other things completely.
Yeah, I mean, like
that was.
What
I'd cut the entire bank thing.
Will Arnett, the banker, that doesn't have any expressions that look like Will Arnett. So I'm just like hearing a disembodied Will Arnett.
Like where is Will Arnett, and who's this character on the screen?
I mean, but he was the only like drama in that movie outside of like oh man, I got these kids now. Like it's 3 girls and a dad instead of
it wasn't real drama because Gru didn't actually need the money at all.
Nor did he know it was drama.
Like it didn't.
Right,
it didn't
that's
make
the thing.
Sense.
Is that I couldn't really figure out what that banker's role was. Like okay. Full disclosure, I also spent half the movie thinking that Dr. Nefario was like in disguise.
Sure.
Like I thought he was going to be the real villain. and I thought he was going to be like a younger evil, aspirational evil mind, because there's a couple. I just misinterpreted some things as like weird red herrings. And so, because you already knew that Vector was the banker's son, and then the banker's like, no, I'm going to put someone younger on this job. And I'm like, that's a red herring. He doesn't mean Vector. He means someone we haven't met yet. And then I was convinced that the guy was Nefario. And so I spent half the movie thinking that I was smarter than the movie, and then the movie was much different than
greatly disappointed.
Then I was brought down several pegs. So I missed a lot, but like of like plot development probably. But I was thinking the banker was going to be maybe revealed to be someone bigger, like someone in charge of this, kind of like a Dr. Evil of some kind of villain consortium, when that's not really what he was.
Oh, that would have been more interesting. Like a Dr. Evil, Dr. Horrible sort of deal, where there's like an evil league of evil that like Bruce trying to be a part of, or is trying to like get into, or like has to like prove his worth. Because
otherwise him getting the moon is, one, to impress his mom, but two, to just be known as the greatest villain. But there's no like metric for that. Like,
he's no Megamind. No one knows who he is. He's just kind of like dinking around in the background, being like, yes, right. I am evil, but also
that's a thing,
and also not.
That's a thing too in this movie. Like, who knows what a Vectro is? Like, does everyone? Do all the people of these towns, or is it like
a Vectro?
Vector? Is that Vector?
Vector. Yeah.
Anyway, like, who knows these villains by their names? Like, are they notorious villains, or is the point is because like, right, his the pyramid that he stole,
that he's like
painted. Right? Vector steals that pyramid, and then he has it behind his house painted in, what Disney World calls Bye Bye Blue, to be the same color of the sky. So, like, he doesn't want people to know it's him.
Yeah, it's really unclear. Like, and the idea of the moon was, like, the idea we kept hearing was that the bank was going to potentially loan him the money to steal the moon, because he'd then ransom the moon, and he'd be able to pay back the bank. But Vector isn't ransoming the pyramids or showing them off. So what's he doing with them?
Right.
Also, who's trying to stop them? Because it seems like the only good guys are like security guards.
There's no, because Gru is not, like, it's very clear in Megamind's story that he is a like comic book supervillain. Gru is more like, at least the situations he's in, more of like a James Bond villain, like more in that cast. But Dick, I think we were talking about this, but you're like, no, but there's no James Bond.
Right.
What's the point?
There's no like
even like a goofy James. Yeah, even like a goofy one, right? I'm trying to think. There's another movie that's on the tip of my tongue, but even
they could have a crappy, like, inept hero
who's like a C character, right? Like,
they don't really acknowledge him, but he's just there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird that these villains exist, and I'll say I kept thinking about a much better, a much better version of this, which is the Venture Brothers. It's a kind of a Johnny Quest show, right? Have you seen it, Andy?
I know of it. I've seen like an episode or a few.
So there's this really fun thing they do with like the banality, of supervillainy, where like, the Monarch is like this supervillain, but he has to get like permits, and like the evil league of evil or whatever like decides whether he's worthy of arching Dr. Venture, or if he has to be assigned to be the arch enemy of someone else, and there's just a lot of like
the
really
bureaucracy.
Really funny like bureaucracy and monotony, which I thought this was going for, but it wasn't really.
Yeah, like he saw the Scorpio episode of The Simpsons, and it was just like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then he didn't. It's like, oh no, this is.
But then also, there's no Homer, right? Like you have to have someone to contrast it against, and the girls work on a different level.
Exactly. Those 22 minutes had a James Bond stand-in as well.
Yeah. There's a James Bond. We saw Hank Scorpio call the UN.
Honestly, like I think that's what was on the tip of my tongue when I'm like, oh, there's another version of this.
Yeah.
Right.
where James Bond is in that for briefly. But so let's talk. I want to get Andy's.
Kill someone on your way out, Homer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get Andy's take on this because Megamind seems to be okay. So part of what made Megamind very easy to follow was a clear villain and hero dynamic, but the other thing is that it's literally Superman.
Yeah,
it's the best Superman movie I've seen this century.
And maybe the Green Lantern. Like, was there a like Hal Stewart? That's like Hal Jordan, right?
Yeah, they definitely were playing with that. It had to be, but then they like didn't.
It's like
do anything with that.
Unworthy guy gets powers and decides what to do with it. I guess he becomes evil, but still.
That's Jonah Hill's character.
Titan, who he spells Tighten.
Yeah.
It is.
I love that joke so much.
And it is like in the cast list as that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
at least on the Voodoo version
credits,
that we rented.
In the credits, he is listed as Titan, Tighten.
Not like the normal spelling.
Not Titan, right?
Can I go back 1 second to Despicable Me? I know we're.
Oh yeah, sure.
What was the art style that they were going for? Because the note I had here was Dr. Seuss, Jimmy Neutron. Like what was the idea? Because like I think you can tell a lot about a movie when how they choose to like anthropomorphize or not their animals. So like you have the shark, and like any animal is just kind of like, oh, like it's an animal, like it belongs in Happy Feet. There's no Hi Dave moment. It's just an animal. But like I just don't know, because like the houses were normal sizes, but then like Gru's giant ass car is just like no, that's like not a shape that you should use for your cars. Like the villain world was definitely like a different design. They're like, oh no, we're gonna go like Art Deco asymmetrical, like turn of the century or whatever. I just like the art design wasn't clear in my mind about what they were going for.
Speaking of Dr. Seuss, wasn't one of the girls wearing like a Lorax film throughout the whole movie?
A Lorax like shirt?
Sorry, a Lorax shirt.
Yeah.
A Lorax. Yeah, no, she just has the DVD on a necklace.
She just has the film.
But the Lorax came out 2 years later?
And that was Steve Carell, right? No, Steve Carell was Horton. No. Anyway.
Danny DeVito with the Lorax.
That's right.
Yeah.
I guess it was Illumination, though, so maybe they were plugging their upcoming project.
Yeah, Andy, I would agree that it had just a very Nickelodeon feel.
Yeah.
Not like a singular.
It was right.
Yeah, I guess like what you listing out all these things, I'm like,
Nick shows are like even like Angry Beavers has a distinct design versus Danny Phantom versus Doug.
I wasn't bothered by it too much because I felt like all the humans. I mean, what I was really bothered by was honestly that Will Arnett banker, because he was the only one that didn't have a face that worked like a face.
Yeah.
Like the face, like he didn't have face muscles that work the way a human face did. And all the other ones, like it's all sorts of like crazy sizing and like none of it's to scale really, but like
sure, but
at least I could like see faces in them. Yeah.
Right. No face aphasia. Yeah, Jason Segel was a good villain choice.
Like yes and. I mean that whole movie is just yes and. Yeah. So the same way that like I think Tina Fey did a fine job in her role in Megamind, it's like Yeah, but do you need, like, this is for the movie poster. Like,
Yeah.
like anyone could have done this. Like a voice actor could have done this probably better. Like,
right.
Like, yeah, I didn't.
You could have gotten Grey DeLise in there, and she would have done a better Tina Fey.
I honestly had to look up who Roxette was. Yeah, and when I looked, I'm like, oh, it's Tina. Oh, okay.
Well, what a waste.
Like, yeah.
Really,
but also like,
I mean, that's a budget waste, is what it is.
But also, like Brad Pitt was like, what was the point?
But Brad Pitt, I thought, he did more interesting things with his voice.
He was fine, but like, do you need Brad Pitt?
Yeah, it's probably a lot of money.
He can't be cheap.
A whole lot of logic to it.
Like this movie, I Megamind, I feel like is just like, how much money can we throw at a movie? Because it's like, again,
make it work.
Brad Pitt, Will Ferrell, not cheap. Jonah Hill was probably a little expensive in 2010, but then also licensing for like 20 songs or something.
Yeah. So, okay, before we get back to the Superman aspect, let's talk about the music in Megamind.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about the music in both these movies.
Okay.
Megamind.
Let's start with Megamind.
Let's start with Megamind.
Megamind is
Dick, did you recognize any songs in Megamind?
No, did you? Yeah, like every song is just it's just like nonstop hits from like, and it's like hits from like one of those greatest hits of the 80s or whatever, because it's never like a deep cut. It's always like, oh, check it out, we're gonna do Welcome to the Jungle or Crazy Train or Back in Black. Yeah,
it's bowling alley music.
Oh, that's a very good way to describe that. That is bowling alley music.
That's all.
I want to let you know I'm refilling my drink, but I'm bringing my laptop over to refill my drink, so I won't disappear into the abyss.
Dick is still laughing about bowling alleys.
Oh my god, that's dead on.
Okay, but I will say, like, Back in Black, like, they did what Michael Jackson's Bad. They were looking at titles. Like, the titles were appropriate for
They were looking at
a villain.
Titles.
They were looking at titles, not the content of the rest of the song.
Not lyrics at all. Like Welcome to the Jungle, which
that didn't make any sense.
Is not about welcoming someone to an actual jungle.
What?
I know.
To be fair, there was not an actual jungle in the movie during this time.
You know what? That's fair.
So I will say, not to like fully defend the music, but this is just my knee-jerk reaction to things, is that doesn't that kind of make sense though? Like, he would pick songs that sound cool by the title, and like it's a very like in-character choice for Megamind to be like, no, this sounds cool, I'm going to use this one.
Dick, you actually said something like this in the movie, or one of us did, that like, it kind of makes sense that these are kind of cheesy choices. And like, he mentions like in the third act, like, what is a villain without theatricality? But I feel like it needed to be more like just intentionally in the text that he's choosing these songs. Cause I don't feel like it was clear to me when it was like Megamind playing a song and when it was just like the soundtrack to the movie I was watching.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I can fuck with that. Yeah.
Cause like, yeah, when he plays a song, okay, cool. I get it. Like he plays Back in Black. I get it.
And like they could have even made it like kind of a, fourth wall joke. Like, why are you playing so many 80s hair band? It's like something like that where like you're being extra transparent about this being a choice, but they did not do that.
Not so much. What did they do instead?
They just kept on doing kind of the same hair metal song by different bands for an hour and a half.
Just kind of nonstop.
Not straight. It wasn't just like they were talking over the track of like.
No, this wasn't Cats Don't Dance. There was silence at some point.
Reference.
Cats Don't Dance. Okay.
Oh.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, So Megamind kind of nonstop with the music. Despicable Me, like a little more restrained, a
Because it was
little bit.
all, except for the opening of the movie, it's all like Pharrell. Did he write all the songs like for this movie as like
Yes,
soundtrack?
he did. And
Okay.
he did the music for it, which is
Okay.
I think pretty great. I like when non-composing artists make music for movies. Say what you will about Tron Legacy, it's a choice of a movie. But Daft Punk did the music. Look, I love it, but it's just pretty. There's not a whole lot of logic to it. Daft Punk did the music for Tron Legacy, and it's one of my favorite albums like ever.
Nice.
So just the fact that Pharrell like composed music, I always find that interesting, good or bad.
Real quick, y'all. I'm looking at the soundtrack, and there is a Bond theme on it. The theme to Casino Royale, apparently, or a song called Casino Royale by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. So, but maybe they had a little bit of a Bond plan that they didn't really keep going with.
So, Andy, it sounds like you like 100% of the music in Despicable Me.
Oh, yeah. Andy said he specifically loved all the music in Despicable Me and thought it was all well chosen.
Let's put this ball in the tee so I can throw the bat and just walk out of here. WTF, Sweet Home Alabama made 0 sense.
That's the first song of the movie, right? Like
the movie opens Sweet Home Alabama.
Like, Walk Like an Egyptian would have made more sense. Maybe
it would have.
Sensitive, but it would have made more sense than Sweet Home Out. Like, they weren't even hillbillies. They didn't have Southern accents. They didn't have any of that.
Kenneth did.
I thought. Well, I mean, but
Jack McBrayer.
Yeah, is from Stone Mountain. I don't actually know where he's from, but he's from Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
Same as Al Glover. Yeah, canon. Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that the musical choices, I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, why are you starting with Sweet Home Alabama? Like, that doesn't set the movie of what I know. Like, it was like the first 10 minutes before the title card, we're like, oh yeah, we started another movie and then we did Despicable Me. Like, that's what happened. Because then, like, the Bad Day song or whatever it's called,
yeah,
in the comments,
I think it's just called great. Despicable Me.
It is called Despicable Me. Yeah, I'm having a bad day. Something. Get my way. Despicable Me. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you see him freeze people in a coffee line to get his coffee order. There we go. There's the villainy that we were looking for.
That just makes him a jerk. He cut in line.
Yeah. Not
like what a villain. He cut in line.
Well, and so that, like, Andy, you said like this really long thing before the title card. Both of these movies have like longer introductions before you see the title.
True.
Whereas Despicable Me uses it to do a totally kind of unrelated thing. Megamind uses it a little bit more straightforward, and you might say like too straightforward, because it's just like, oh, look at me. This is me as a baby. Then I grew up. Like, it's all of that backstory, but I think it kind of works.
Oh,
like it is. Yeah. It's a little bit pedestrian, but like
I was going to disagree with you if you didn't say it worked, because I think it does. It's like it's getting it out of the way. Like, it's this was what, 2010, so Iron Man 2 maybe had come out by this point. People weren't as familiar with superhero movies, but like it did what all the superhero movies do now. It's just like, look up the origin online, like Wikipedia this, like
right.
What does it tell you? But it did it in a great job. Like, they use that shorthand of those spaceships like bouncing into each other. Like, that's just like funny Looney Tunes slapstick. It was very Looney Tunes as well, like the humor. But yeah, like it used that, and I rented it eventually, but like I was like, oh, I'm not gonna rent this movie, it's dumb. And then I reminded how much I enjoyed this movie. But I was watching it in clips on YouTube, and like the intro doesn't take more than like 12 minutes of the entire like hour and a half. So like it's using this time effectively to then be like, oh yes, like this is like our rivalry, and then I chose this name, he chose that name, and then like you can just kind of your mind fills in the blanks. Like even if you don't know superhero stuff, it's like, oh, they've been fighting. Like they're old people now. They've known each other since we're children. So,
and I think for a movie that's going to be about Megamind and not your like Superman character, the fact that like they can essentially reference that like, okay, also this guy is Superman. Like it gives you a context that you don't need Brad Pitt's character in there for very long to understand what this villain's job is and like and what he's missing.
Storytelling shortcut that we just say, oh, this is Superman. Got it. We can move on.
Yeah. No, and like I said, this is the best Superman movie of the 2000s.
And is that much of a challenge?
It's not.
The Iron Giant being the best before that.
Yes. That is the best Superman movie of the 90s, because the only Superman movie was Steel with Shaq. So, like you do.
Okay, but
you've said a lot of words in a row. What?
In fairness, in Steel, Shaq's grandma invents a brand new food that is a mixture of French cuisine and spicy food. Not at all. Not at all.
Cajun?
No, not that. Different thing.
Okay.
Different thing.
She totally different.
Two totally different things.
I've never seen this or really heard of it. I was unaware that Shaq did a movie that was not Kazam.
Yeah, he should.
Is he like a superhero genie? Is that
he's Superman?
Yeah,
but like Superman. Funny?
No.
What?
No.
Do they think that Shaq can act?
They did in the late 90s. Shaq is... We won't get into that. That's another podcast.
Yeah, there's a whole thing.
Yeah. Early 2000s, Superman got killed. 4 people took over the 4 different comics that were running about him. Steel was one of them. His real name is John Henry Irons, like John Henry, the guy who beat his way through a mountain.
With the hammer.
Yeah. Steel has a hammer and is dressed like Superman. It's like if Iron Man put on a cape and grabbed a hammer. Yeah.
Anyway,
look,
Iron Man.
Speaking of Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. was the first choice to be Megamind, and scheduling conflicts
interesting
pulled him out, and then it was Will Ferrell. Yeah,
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, so it would have been interesting to hear his voice in this movie, right? Because like you hear Will Ferrell, and you're like, this is a Will Ferrell movie. Like,
yeah,
this basically sounds like Mugatu.
Mugatu. Slaves, Derek. Slaves.
Go ahead, Andy. Oh, nope. Okay.
None of us can see each other's faces, so this is
yeah, this is our first fully remote podcast because Kate and I are in separate rooms, so we don't hear the echo while we're recording.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. I want to get to something, and that thing is something that I've forgotten. So someone else, please talk now.
Uh-oh.
The thing next will be a commercial.
So one thing that this like shorthand of Superman does is that you actually get to follow the protagonist, Megamind, on a really interesting journey.
Yeah.
Right? Like he gets to really, you get to focus on his kind of battle between good and evil in himself. Whereas in the other movie, because you're learning literally everything about this world, everything about Gru, there are no shortcuts. They could have by making him like a Bond villain. No shortcuts. Everything has to be introduced and knotted up and then unknotted over the course of the story. Whereas this shorthand in Megamind means that you get to like kind of start with the knots to begin with. And it bounces off of a lot of like prior connections you have to superheroes in general, not just Superman, to supervillains. And I think that's a more interesting story. And like we've said, it's easier to follow.
And he's a lot more. He's a more honest villain than Gru is, because he's just like they did a real good job of like distilling down like, oh, like this is what an evil person would do, but he's not necessarily evil. It was just like a means to an end. He's like, oh, like I learned this. This is how like I do my thing. This is how he does his thing. And like when Brad Pitt did a better job than I thought he was. So this movie is still a surprise to me, however many years later. But when he's like, oh, like copper, my one weakness, and Megamind's just like, what, really? Copper? Like, after all this time, it's copper? Like, I would have just thrown a bunch of pennies at you if I had known. It was just an honest portrayal, like, of these characters of like, oh, like I was planning to lose today. Like I knew this was going to happen, but this is weird that I'm winning now.
And like, what do I do with that?
Yeah, what do I do with that? Yeah. And then
can we talk?
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well,
can we talk about going back to that copper bit? Can we talk about the death of a superhero in this movie?
Yeah, that was.
Did you expect that?
No, I did not. Like the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, I don't know anything that's going to happen in this movie now. Like,
yeah,
I
thought I knew, but
yeah,
totally.
That's great. I love when that happens. When it's just like, oh, that's not what I expected. Avengers Endgame did that to me. I mean, no spoilers, a year out, but still, like the first 20 minutes of that movie, like reset all my expectations about what was going to happen. I'm like, okay, I got nothing then. Cool. Like I will be surprised throughout this whole movie.
I still have to watch that.
And I think that Act 1 ender of like the superhero is dead, like the Superman is dead, is one argument for like Brad Pitt being there. Cause like you kill off Brad Pitt in like the first half hour of your movie. Like what?
Yeah.
If you know it's Brad Pitt, it's less easy. Like it's less predictable.
Right. I think they did a good job of like not, because so this reminded me of The Boys, which is a comic that is purposely being like, oh, like the superhero, Superman, Justice League tropes are all like worn out. Let's make this all grim and gritty. It reminded me of that, just in that like how smarmy Metro Man was, but like it was just this fun, just like he doesn't give a shit because he doesn't have to, because he's always gonna win.
Right.
But, like in a fun way that wasn't just like, oh, like I'm always gonna win. When it's like, we love you, I love you, Metro Man. He's like, I love you, random citizen. Like he was just ready for that. He was like, It's happened so often that like he's just like it's part of his dialogue, like no matter what. So I think they did a real good job of just like distilling that into a into like the character that was on screen maybe for, I don't know, 10 minutes of the whole movie.
Yeah. And then he does like, you do get a little bit more of that Brad Pitt paycheck later on, but
true. Yes.
Also in an interesting way that ties back to this idea of like, well, you know, these are the roles that we've kind of been given, but what if I want to choose something different?
Yeah. Exactly.
It makes that an option for Megamind that like, well, you don't have to be the supervillain if you're done with it. If that journey is over.
I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy.
Okay, so I think that's about all I have on these, but I wasn't taking notes. Andy, I know you have furiously scribbled some notes about these movies.
Yes.
Do you have anything else that you want to bring?
Highlights.
Highlights for children, please.
You say highlights for children?
Yeah, you know, Goofus and Gallant, and there's
Can
like
you tell these two pictures apart?
Yeah, they're the same picture.
So I took notes. Many lines, less than a sentence. I found it interesting that we all know how writing works. I don't need to prove myself.
Pen or pencil?
Pen. pen.
Ooh.
For both of them. Yeah.
It's a bold move. Not afraid to make mistakes.
Sorry, different pens or the same pen?
Different pens, actually.
Whoa.
Both black. One was a more fancy pen that I somehow have in my apartment. And I think my ex left it here years ago, and then I kept it. Hey. The only good thing out of that.
You showed them.
Quite.
Very villainous.
I'll be Gotham's reckoning. Speaking of a show about villains and heroes, the Harley Quinn show on the DC pay channel is actually really well done. It takes these movies and puts them in a TV series.
Sorry, we're never getting a DC pay channel, Andy.
No, I know. I absolutely know. That's not what I was trying to pitch you right there.
That's not a thing we're going to pay for.
I've also heard Birds of Prey is pretty good.
I've heard that as well. I still need to see it.
Oh, but, okay.
That's not a great sign for a company when it's just like, it was pretty good. I know, right? Instead of like, yeah, that was like classic DC. It's just like, no, it was decent at best.
They made a good one. It was weird.
I know. Shazam was also good. Yeah.
Shazam was really good.
Shazam was really good. That was a fun movie.
They just need to be digging into the stuff. Like, they're not going to make a good Batman or Superman movie after what's been
right.
Unless you have a really new take for Batman, that's kind of done.
Sure. That's although that's not stopping them from making another Batman. But that may look okay.
Orphan Fight 2.
Electric Boogaloo. They need to not be afraid of their characters. Like, Marvel made what is one of the best like superhero movies with Winter Soldier with Captain America. Like, he's a strong man with a garbage can as a weapon. Like, that's if you make that believable, I think you can make other things happen. Yeah. But speaking of heroes and public figures, something that came to mind. So in the movie Megamind, you have the Metro Man Museum, and just this big, ostentatious, glass building with a giant statue of him. But seeing it from Megamind's perspective, and then Roxanne, you have the idea of a hero, which is this again ostentatious, just giant kind of monument to his success, and just why if you think about it too hard, you're why are we doing this? But taking it from a public figure, if you have some senator or local representative that really did great for the community, and then you turn it and let's kind of give them a museum, it becomes a different thing. So you can see it as hero worship, or it's Metro Man was doing his civic duty, and they put this monument up to him, be look at let's be as great as Metro Man was for us, and let's make it happen. So
it's just like how we have a statue of Ralph Cramden in New York at Port Authority.
Who's Ralph Cramden?
Ralph Cramden, yeah.
The Honeymooners?
Yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Say more.
There's a statue of Ralph Cramden from the Honeymooners.
The Jackie Gleason character, right?
Okay.
Yeah. He's a bus driver who threatened to beat his wife every episode. Great show.
Yeah.
Anyway, someone to look up to.
Fun spoof in 30 Rock about that. I don't know. That was just an interesting thing, since I'm more enmeshed in the superhero world. Just seeing it's a hero or it's a public figure. It's Roxanne. And kind of getting that human perspective to all of that. So that was one of my points. And then it was Wreck-It Ralph before it was Wreck-It Ralph. I think that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm a bad guy, not a bad guy.
Yeah.
The pronunciation got me throughout this movie. That was always they knew when to use the joke.
So if you haven't seen the movie, the city is Metro City, but Megamind pronounces it throughout the movie as Matrocity. Like, that's just how he says it.
And he says several things just slightly wrong, and it's really fun.
Yeah. Hello is Olo. Olo.
Olo. Hello.
School is school.
Shul. Yeah.
Shul. Yeah.
Which just leads me to believe that Megamind might be Jewish if he's going to shul.
Yeah.
Shul. With Meshuggah. And let's see what else is on my extensive list here. I know we kind of touched about Minions in the beginning, but for like an Old Yeller sort of like I never loved you sort of moment between him and Minion, it was
in Megamind.
In Megamind,
talking about Minion.
What Old Yeller have you read where that happens?
Maybe.
I think you're thinking of Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh shit! I'm thinking of Harry and the Hendersons.
He loves Old Yeller.
Get out of here!
He doesn't say "I hate you, I never loved you," and then shoot the dog.
Oh,
the sad thing is that he shoots the dog and he loves it.
Most definitely.
That would be so mean. Like, I never loved you. Boom.
Boom.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This is embarrassing to learn this in such a public setting, but
oh, that's all
right. Minion. I liked Minion's character. Like they were legitimately friends. And it was like just like a friendship disagreement.
Minion in Megamind.
In Megamind. David
Cross piranha in a bowl on a furry robot.
On a gorilla suit that they never explained, and that's funny to me. Like,
I agree.
That's just great. It's like, what? Oh no, it's like it's 1950s like sci-fi. It's like, yeah, it's a gorilla suit because
What happens if you punch the Iron Man and the King Kong?
King Kong and the Iron Man. Okay.
Sorry.
King Kong and the Iron Man. Yeah.
Not this usually.
I'll say David Cross was great in this. I enjoy him generally. I liked him as Minion. He was playing kind of the same character that he does on later seasons of Archer, where he's just like kind of in the middle of a big scary situation. He's like, well, sir, maybe we should consider this. That it was very fun. It's a very fun delivery.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, it's that same character, the unassuming nice guy.
Yeah, but in this case, he's in a piranha gorilla suit.
Yes.
Wait, he's a piranha in a gorilla suit. Anyway,
piranha in a gorilla, an alien piranha in a gorilla robot.
Get your details straight.
Yeah.
Any more notes, Andy?
I do. Titan was a good villain. They didn't make him like just like a bad Superman. It's like that's always a popular like, oh, like what if Superman was bad? Like what if he just killed everyone? This did it in like a real way of like this dude who didn't have a whole lot going for him. He got stuff going for him, and then he's like, no, like F this ass. I'm gonna do what I want with these powers because no one can stop me. So I just thought it was a realistic enough take in a movie with a blue alien on like what would actually happen if like, oh, like no, he's just gonna do what he wants. Like he's gonna make himself rich. He's gonna do this and that. Cloud motif. Oh. Joe Pancake. So this is a nitpicky thing, but something I enjoyed. Megamind used the same tools throughout the movie. A lot of the times, like you'll go from MacGuffin to MacGuffin and be like, oh, like yes, this object for this thing. But he used those like clouds over and over again, like he did in the beginning of the movie. He had that cloud machine.
Oh yeah, he creates a storm around himself.
Oh
When he like kidnaps or at the beginning of the movie with Metro.
Yeah.
It's
and then
the
at the end is
theatricality, yeah.
Yeah, like I just noticed that like it's not just like, oh, like we need to keep ramping it up. Like he's on a limited budget. He can only use so many tools. So let's use them to the most advantage there. So yeah, I would say 92% enjoyed Megamind, 75% on Despicable Me.
Well, those are the ratings, y'all. Well, Kate, what are you feeling?
Be time for the final cut.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Craziness.
It's the final cut now.
A lot of Arrested Development in these two.
Oh,
Just a lot of like sitcoms that we have enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you got The Office, you got...
It's true.
30 Rock.
You've got...
Super bad.
Arrested Development.
Cool. So what do we start with in the final cut?
We start with scene shout out, where we take a scene from each movie and shout it out as something we especially enjoyed or liked. Those were the same.
Well, Kate, let's start with Megamind, and let's start with you.
All right. Oh man, I had one and then I forgot.
Let me vamp for time.
Oh, great.
Can the shout out be a good or bad shout out?
It is a good shout out. We designed this segment so that if we're talking about a movie we absolutely hate, that someone listening to the podcast likes, we're still saying at least one nice thing about it. These are shout outs of things that we like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Kate?
All right. I am going to shout out that scene where Mega Man dies. Or what's his name? Metro Man? Metro Man. Where he's inside this observatory. He gets trapped, and then he says, "Oh, how did you know copper was my weakness?" And then they explode it, and you think like, "Oh, that's gonna undo the kryptonite kind of copper effects that Megamind didn't know about." And then he comes soaring out, and you're like, "Oh, okay, he's here again to save the day." And then he just skids into where Megamind is as a skeleton in a cape. And like, not only has the hero died, not only has the hero died, but it's just a really like macabre way to visualize it. And like, it made us laugh out loud. It was great. Like, this is not what anyone expected.
Oh boy, he's coming towards here. Oh no.
Like, could not be clearer what has happened. It's great. That's my scene shout out for Megamind.
Nice.
Megamind.
Andy, do you have a scene shout out for Megan Man?
I think I always cheat during this round because I'm always this one was cool. I would say the scene shout out. I'm gonna stick to one. When they find Metro Man in his like secret hideout, and like it's just very clear like this dude just wanted to retire and he didn't think of a good way to do it. He was just like he put the key on the desk. I was like, okay, I'll see you guys later. And it's like, wait, did you just quit? Like, is that what you just did here? But the fact that like he's just very much alive and wanted to pursue his Music Man career, that's what he called himself. Like, I gotta keep all my suits, and it's fine. It was just that was a fun. Like, it broke its own rule of like, oh, like the hero's dead, but in like a fun, okay way. Like it subverted its own rules that the movie set up, but in a way that like worked for it, because like you don't see him after that until Michael Jackson's Bad starts playing.
Can we just briefly mention that both of these movies do the 2000s favorite animated feature closer, a dance party that nobody asked for.
For reasons.
Yeah, for reasons. I also noticed in Despicable Me, they use a lot of like disco 70s music, and I made a note about that. It's like kids equal disco music ?
I mean, have you seen Trolls? I haven't, but there's probably disco in that.
My elementary kid's favorite song is "I'm Still Standing" because of the movie Sing. Like, you can implant anything with a kids movie. Like,
who's "I'm Still Standing"? Who's that by?
Elton John.
Dr.
I'm
Elton
still
John.
standing. Da 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 da. It's like from the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like one of his.
I mean, it's not from 2020.
No, it is not.
Hall & Oates-esque songs.
Yes.
I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
After Yellow Brick Road, before The Lion King.
That it's not like a 20-year period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we are. So, end of sentence. Mega Man, the movie.
Dick, what was your scene shout out in Megamind?
The upsetting thing is that I let Andy go before me, and he took mine because I loved that scene.
But you can extend because there was.
Yeah,
the last part of that scene made you laugh really hard.
Wait, what was the last part of that scene?
When I don't want to take away your. It's when Tina Fey is just throwing a bunch of things at him.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was like a cry laugh.
So yeah, I will shout that out. So I forget her name, but Lois Lane,
Roxanne,
our Lois Lane character, Roxanne. She doesn't wear a red dress, but she does get super angry and starts chucking stuff at Metro Man, and it's just like bounce, like it's just smashing off of his face, and he is not moving or reacting because it obviously does not hurt him.
He's Superman.
The character model is 100% still, besides blinking.
It's so funny to me. That's a great scene. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, that's my shout out.
Yeah, she's like throwing like guitars and amps and desks. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
she just picks up a giant like 3-tier speaker and just like throws it at him.
He just stands there and it just shatters on him. It's great.
Is that your Megamind?
That's my Megamind shout out. That's great. I'm going to go first on Despicable Me.
All right. I think that's fair.
Thank you. And I'm going to say my scene shout out is the sappy ending where Dr. Despicable, what's his name? Gru.
Dr. Despicable.
Where Gru made a little puppet book about 3 kittens and a monster or something, and then they're friends. I like that a lot. It's very sweet. It made me like Gru because the girls liked Gru. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Andy,
you want to go next? Which Minion scene is your favorite?
Which Minion scene is my favorite? My Minion testimony. I'm gonna do 1.5. I enjoyed the flip chart scene.
Just the meme.
That's one of my favorite memes. Just in general, it's just like, okay, take over the planet. I can't even think of a good one right now. But yeah, the four panel meme where it's just like, we do this and then that and then that this. Again. Wait,
that.
Yeah. But in the movie, it's like a bad drawing of Gru by the girls. So that's my shout out, and I said I wasn't going to cheat, but this is just I noticed that a lot of Steve Carell movies end in dancing. This ended in a lot of dancing. So did 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I think it was just a thing movies were doing for a while.
Was it? Okay. Because
it started with Shrek,
definitely didn't end in dancing.
Well, Dan in real life was a different.
Was Mulan before Shrek?
Mulan was before Shrek, but
Mulan
I feel like
ended
Shrek
in a dance party.
Shrek leaned into it more than Mulan did.
You can't tell me it started with Shrek when Mulan ended with a dance party.
No, that's fair.
Sorry. I'm standing my ground on this.
Yeah, and it was a totally new song. Yeah.
98.
But I will say that the Stevie Wonder song was written for Mulan. Shrek started the thing of like, we're just going to pull a random song from 20 years ago
Kate,
to dance to.
The Monkees wrote "I'm a Believer," believing that eventually there would be a movie
about a green ogre
worth it. Yes,
with a confusing Scottish accent.
That's true.
I'm an ogre. Donkey.
I'm gonna.
My name is.
Okay, so I'm for Despicable Me. Yeah. I am gonna go with that tea party scene where I discovered that the Minion had shrunk. In part because, like, I just like the narrative in my head that I had not seen the Minion shrink, and all of a sudden it was just small. But also, like, it's really cute, right? Like, they're doing a tea party, and Gru is like, "Now I pour the tea for you, and now you have to hold it like this." With like,
you gotta clink.
Yeah, you have to clink. That's the and it's a nice scene. Like, Dick, I agree with you that ending storybook that he makes is really adorable, and also the one where he's introduced to the Kitten Mittens book, where like, no, you have to put your fingers in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is dumb. Like every parent's like internal thought, like, this is all right. Okay,
you got to put the fingers. Oh, okay, all right, great.
Okay,
but yeah, it's one of several scenes where Gru is just fully embracing this thing that he has never embraced before, and it is silly, but he is doing his best. And there's also a minion the size of another minion's hand.
Yes.
Was that the Jermaine Clement one?
How would you know? Like,
how would anyone know?
Exactly.
I also, Andy, did you notice that the minions are all given names that sound like what we would have named our Christmas tree growing up? They're all like Stuart and Davis and Jeremy. Like
yeah.
Why don't we explain this to people who did not name their Christmas trees? And by that I mean explain it to every single person in the world besides you guys.
I mean, so like, what? When we were like teenagers, we got our first real tree.
When you were teenagers, you started naming your Christmas trees?
Well, because before it was just the same plastic tree every year.
Yeah, our mom doesn't like germs. She invests heavily in Ziploc bags. Everything
is clean and sanitized.
Like there are a lot of Ziploc bags that come in packages to us if she ever sends us anything, and you're like, oh great, I have like a whole box of quart-sized bags now. So we did. I don't know why. Like, I guess our plastic tree got too old or something and started falling apart.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah. I was in high school or like middle school. So like the first.
So for like a number of years, we started getting real trees, and Andy.
Oh yeah, and like all of a sudden, I think it was probably your idea, Kate. Is that like you're like, let's name the tree. I'm like, what? Okay,
it's a living thing until we cut it.
Thing. It deserves a name.
And we didn't cut it. We just got it at a thing.
Yeah,
stand. What was the first one name? Was like Franklin, and then the year after it was like Samuel.
Murray was one of the names as well. Yeah.
So all these minions are named with these very mundane like white man names that like it just really makes me laugh.
Didn't we name one Kenneth at some point?
Well, Kenneth was the fake tree that was going to live forever.
Aww.
Who said I'm going to live forever?
Anyway, so that's just a side note, but I appreciate that about the minions.
Yeah, right. No Bobs though. That's
but did that story answer your questions, Dick?
I'm gonna be honest. I got distracted and zoned out. So hopefully
that's about right.
Yeah. Okay. What's the next segment of this part of this show that we do?
We all listed a Despicable Me, so now it's time for MVP, most valuable Pikachu.
Yes.
Of both movies.
So you name a single most valuable player, I guess.
Yeah.
So it can be a character, an actor, a director, a writer.
Someone on the creative team.
But you only pick one for the 2 movies in total.
That's correct.
And, Andy, I'm going to let you have a minute to think about this.
Yeah, please.
And we're going to start with Kate.
Oh.
I'm not giving you a minute to think about this.
No, because it's probably the Minions.
Aw.
Like, I understand every criticism everyone has about them after this, but they're so fun. Like, I mean, when it all comes down to it, I think the Minions as an entity is why Despicable Me won, right? Of these 2 movies. Like, they're super memorable. They're kind of like scientific, like science lab designed for me. They like speak in really fast gibberish. They waddle around. They have those fun names like Samuel, and I don't know. It's just really funny to me.
Nice.
Yeah. That's all.
Here we go. My MVP is going to be one Hans Zimmer. I think he's been MVP on this show before, but he's great. And you pointed this out while we were watching it. They Megamind at one point comes out to Bad to the Bone.
We should say that Hans Zimmer is involved in one of these movies. He's not just like an MVP floating.
No, he's just a guy. No, so Megamind comes out to Bad to the Bone. Is that correct?
Well, kind of. He comes out to an orchestra cue.
Okay, but earlier in the yes.
Oh yeah, probably it appears earlier in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The song Bad to the Bone plays in the movie. And then later there's an orchestra cue where Hans Zimmer, who did the music for it, kind of brought in that do-do-do-do-do, like that Bad to the Bone riff. And he does that a couple times by bringing these like riffs from the pop score into the orchestral score. And it really helps bring everything together. And it makes it feel a little bit less weird that this music is in there. Yeah. So Hans Zimmer. Boom. Andy?
Boom. Let's see. My MVP between these 2 movies. I was also going to say like the music, but like there's just like one kid, like Lauren Baffa, like co-composed with Hans Zimmer on Megamind. Yeah, he's done a lot of like Assassin's Creed scores, which is just interesting to see that work come through. I'm actually going to give it to Will Ferrell.
Whoa!
And that is fair.
Yeah. Oh. So we kind of touched on this. There are voice actors and then actors who are given voice actor roles. That doesn't always translate well, like a 1-to-1 ratio. I would say this is like top 5 Will Ferrell roles for me. In terms of just like he expresses all of like the emotion and nuance of like an actual character within this, instead of just being like, yes, this is my line. I will say my line now, and my line will be like this. He does a really good job of like making you believe that like as much of an oaf as Megamind is, that like he's like, yes, this is like the most clever thing that like I've done to date. So like this should be like accepted as such, and like I'm a genius. He just really did a good job, even as like child Megamind. I always think of like people that I meet now, like in their child form, as just being like that version of them.
Sure.
Just shrunken down. So like Dick would still have like 5 o'clock shadow as a
beard.
yeah. As a child. But so like just hearing his narration as like little Megamind, he doesn't even have a name. His name is just Megamind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so he did a good job of making that transition from voice actor to actor, or actor to voice actor. So
Nice.
I honestly think this is a good, like, this is in the vein of a Will Ferrell movie. I was saying this when we watched it. Like, it makes you, like, I almost would believe if someone told me, like, well, this was going to be like a Anchorman type movie, but they couldn't figure out how to do all the effects live, so they just put it into an animated version. Because, like, Tina Fey and Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt, like, they'd all be in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
they'd be in a Will Ferrell movie after a certain point, especially.
Yeah. I've learned to appreciate Jonah Hill as an actor. Side note. So yeah, while not the greatest voice actor, he was a good choice for that character.
Yeah, it worked for the character.
Yeah, it worked for the character. If they'd gotten someone else, it may have been a little bit better, but other than that, it worked.
Dick,
nice.
You got an MVP? Oh, you already did one.
I already said mine, but I will tell you my crossover.
Oh, please do.
Which is the next thing that we do. Is we do crossovers. We cross over to characters or creators or whatever from the movies. Entities. So my crossover, I'm going to cross over Minion and the Minions.
Nice.
They have it's okay. So here it is. It's basically Muppet Babies. Minion plays Nanny, and the rest of the Minions are the Muppets. So Minion, the fish in a gorilla suit, is in charge of a daycare where all the minions go.
Minions.
Yeah.
Minions.
I would hate that so much.
Minions.
Kate. Kate, you got a crossover?
Vector meets Minion, and Minion becomes the sea animal that he shoots out of his launcher. Because that's the thing. Like,
I'm the sea creature now.
Like, right? He wants to shoot. He has like an invention that shoots piranhas out. Then it's squids. That's his only thing. It's like sea animals. And Minion, Minion is a piranha. Yeah. So,
oh my god.
It's just a gun that only shoots Minion. And then Minion has to like hop back to the gun to be shot again. Like, there's only one. There's only one piece of ammunition.
Vector, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way, sir.
that was too coherent for a Minion.
That's good.
Like, I feel like Minions were born out of like, oh yeah, I've seen Lilo and Stitch once. That's yeah, Stitch kind of talks like that. China.
Andy, you got a crossover for us, friend?
Minion means family.
That wasn't that funny, but I'm a few evil gin and ginger ales in, so
there we go.
There you go.
I want to see a Megamind, like just the character, and like a slightly older Agnes movie.
Okay.
I think like making her his like trainee with her kind of like stream of consciousness thought line would end in a lot of like humor and fun like Looney Tunes explosions where like he's holding up like a help sign. And that's about as far as I got with that.
I like it.
But like, yeah, a slight like Megamind interacting with any age of Agnes would be really great, because like his just like literal like interpretation, like no, that's not what I meant. Like I let me explain it again for you. That like that's definitely not what I meant to say. Would just be too perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, he could use a Chaos Muppet sidekick.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
going back to Muppets.
Yeah, as all conversations do. They say that you can't get through a day without mentioning a monkey of some sort.
Comment below with your favorite Muppet or monkey.
I can fly over here or over here.
What are they commenting below?
A social media post.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Fine.
Smash that moon button.
Smash that. Yeah. Smash the new button that Facebook gave us. Like
care.
Thanks, Facebook. That was good top priority.
There's a care button.
There's a new
yeah, it's like love, haha, and care. It's a hug.
Oh, good. A virtual hug. Yep. You can't do that right now.
That's Facebook's number one priority. There's no other problems with their platform.
that Mark Zuckerberg, always thinking of something.
Nothing more to fix.
Nothing more to fix.
Quick question.
We're done here.
Dick.
Is it time for the final?
Final. Cut?
Yeah,
I think it might be.
Okay.
That way of saying it makes the most sense, because then it's like a sandwich.
Aw.
If you say the first final and the last cut, and I say the one in the middle. Anyway.
Fair. So, Kate, we're going to start with you. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start with Megamind.
Okay.
Kate, are you going to take this movie? Is this worth just like re-releasing into theaters? Mm-hmm. Would you do some sort of special edition where you change it up or like make it a museum piece like you love to do? Or would you totally destroy it, throw it in the vault, never to be seen again?
So I think I special edition Megamind with some rewrites to just flesh it out a little more. I think it's like 85% there, and I really enjoy watching it, and I like the characters, and I like the arc, but it just needs a little bit more. And whether that's like pushing him a little bit more to like being invested in his villainy as opposed to just his rivalry in the beginning. And I think the major change I would make is, the catalyst for him changing to good, not just being a romantic plot. And they try to kind of expand it out but he literally says multiple times, it's because of you, Roxanne, that I wanted to make a change. Yeah. Whereas like, I bet many more people liked that.
Her name.
Roxanne?
Roxanne!
All right. Like, I'm sure more people than Roxanne appreciated that he had dehydrated all the trash, right? Like,
yeah.
That part of the movie where he's like getting rid of all the trash in the town to make it, a better scene set for his epic battle with his new hero. Like, I think you could have seen a couple more instances of that where like he did things for himself, but then like, oh, I'm actually getting attention for this, like from the whole city.
Yeah.
In the way that my, villainous acts were getting attention before. Maybe I can do this instead, as opposed to it just being Roxanne who like notices.
You should write a musical about that.
Well, if the thing is that I did.
You wrote a Mega Man musical? Musical?
No, I wrote an Alpha Boy musical. I wrote a superhero musical for my 5th grade kids about like the main villain in it is pushed to villainy because he didn't feel like he was getting enough attention for the good things he was doing, but everyone had very strong reactions to the bad things he was doing. So he's just like, well, screw it. I'm just doing bad things.
Yeah.
And then he found out that good things could get him attention too.
Mm-hmm. Fiero.
Andy. Oh boy. Andy, the Megamind, re-release as is, special edition, or throw it in the vault?
I was gonna say release as is. I think I'm just gonna say ditto to Kate's opinion. Expand it out a little bit, but I would be happy to see this. I would pay to see this in theaters again. I'd be like, oh, cool, Megamind's back. I'll go. Yeah, I'll spend $17 to see this movie I can see for free.
You're making it sound like movie theaters are going to be a thing of the future.
Well, yeah, you're really dating this podcast.
I don't know that that's going to be a thing ever again.
You're dating this podcast.
What's a movie theater?
It's like, we're just making an episode of Animaniacs. Like, yes, Bill Clinton reference. Bill Clinton reference.
The president plays the saxophone.
That's
our thing.
While Bill Clinton plays the sax, we're Animaniacs.
That's true.
That is a show that has not gotten a reboot, and it shouldn't.
That's fine.
I would leave it as is. I would go see it again. I I would maybe update. I would put more people in it. Just more livelihood, much like Breath of the Wild, the newest Zelda game. It just feels empty.
Yeah.
So add some more people to it. Not necessarily like more characters, just more
right. Literally
kind of background.
more extras.
Literally more people. That's what I would add to it. Other than that, I think it's a pretty solid movie. I enjoyed my time rewatching it on Friday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dick?
All right. Y'all ready? Because make sure you have like a nice cold drink near you. Make sure you have maybe a fan by you, because this is about to be a hot take.
Oh.
Here's my special edition. Ready?
Shit.
Live action remake.
Superman Returns. Wait, what?
Live action remake.
No, that'd be good.
I want to. I think part of what doesn't work for me in this movie is the kind of inconsistency in art style, and kind of the weird time where it takes place. And also, I think Titan is just really horrible to look at. As a human and as a superhero, he's just awful to look at.
Also, how did she put together that it was like Titan that was coming about? Because like I zoned out for a little bit in that movie, and then suddenly like he showed up.
I don't know. Yeah,
and, like
he was
30
hanging
seconds
a bunch
before
of things.
She did a Charlie kind of.
It was very weird.
Beautiful Mind thing, and then it just.
Yeah, it was Pepe Sylvia. But yeah, so you have, I mean, Shazam proved that this basic formula can work. You do a comedy superhero movie where someone that doesn't necessarily deserve to be a superhero becomes a superhero. I think you can make this really funny. You don't cast Will Ferrell as Megamind, maybe.
I don't know. I think you could. I think one of the things for me that's missing about this movie is the same thing we talked about in Missing Link, where why would you animate Zach Galifianakis when the funniest thing about him is like his voice coming out of that face?
Yeah.
And for Zach Galifianakis, his comedy is very much based in like the combination of voice and face. And I'd say that's kind of Will Ferrell's thing too. I think he does a great job in this movie.
Yeah, he would be really funny as a live action Megamind.
For sounding like Will Ferrell in this movie, like I know immediately that it's Will Ferrell playing this part. I'm invested in the character. You know, it's not just like, Will Ferrell's voice is coming out of this blue guy,
and you get some value out of Brad Pitt at that point.
I think so too. I think you get more value out of everyone, because what DreamWorks is not doing here is what Disney does, where they're like taking sketches of their voice actors in the studio and adding those. Like I saw none of Tina Fey in that character, right? Like they had designed these characters before they even cast it.
Brown hair. That's about the link between Roxanne and Tina. Yeah.
Like Tina Fey has some like facial expressions that you could animate. Like she has her own things, and Will Ferrell the same, and you didn't see that at all in the characters. And I think it's a missed opportunity that these characters, every single one of them, like you said, Brad Pitt, I think Jonah Hill would be funnier in that role too, if you could see Jonah Hill doing the things.
It'd be funny to watch. I want to give a shout out to the way Jonah Hill's Titan, the way Titan flies at the beginning, where like he does not have his hands and legs out, and he's just kind of like flying sideways, like he's sitting down. It's very funny to look at.
Yeah, that whole like Jor-El, Marlon Brando sort of thing. Like, it's weird and meta, and like it's Will Ferrell just like talking, like holding his tongue. Like, literally talking like this. But it's still like it's funny enough that like it's a decent fourth wall break.
Yeah, if you're gonna say that this is basically Superman, you might as well do a Jor-El.
It was a
Marlon
fun
Brando
reference.
impression. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so
but not a Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor impression.
No. No, who? No, I don't know that name.
Wrong.
Oh boy.
Let's jump to some Despicable Me.
Despicable Me.
Andy, I'm going to let you go first on this one, or I'm going to make you go first. Either way, Despicable Me.
Throw it in the vault.
Whoa! Just getting rid of it completely.
Gaslight people to think that they saw this at one point. There are a lot of good ideas in there of like the mastermind, like the villain becoming less of a villain because of a supernatural good force, like the children. But make it a video on YouTube that I thought I saw, and like when I looked for like long nosed villain with children.
Like, I guess I didn't see that movie. I don't know. I thought that was a thing.
Yeah, and just like, did you mean something else?
Did you mean did you mean Shazam with Shaq?
Did you mean Kazam? No, I meant Kazam, not Shazam. Yeah, I just don't think it doesn't add anything to the conversation around animation other than the Minions, which I think we can do without. I just don't. I don't like saying like, oh, like we're dumber because of like, no, because we're not. But it's a weird like shorthand that I don't appreciate of like, oh, like Minions are just like, it's random, like, haha, let's be random, and it's just like, no, it's not funny to just like be random.
We're a little past monkey cheese ninja.
What? Monkey cheese ninja?
Oh, just that's kind of the phrase I use for random. We're kind of past that. It's oh, it's
right.
Yeah. We're monkey cheese ninjas.
Remember, everyone loves ninjas. Everyone loves the elite assassins that killed a lot of people back in the day. Yeah, we do. It's like, I'm such a ninja, like, so.
Yo, I don't want to be on the wrong side of ninjas. I love them.
Right.
If you are a ninja listening to this podcast, know that I'm on
Let me say right now that yes, if you are a ninja, I have no ill will against you. Please don't come. Please don't come for me. Thank you. Oh, what? I blacked out for a second.
All right. So Andy, you vault this.
I vault this shit.
That is a bold move on Cellmates podcast, but I respect it. Dick, Kate? What do you do? Oh.
Wait.
I said your name first.
Wait.
Rock, paper, scissors.
What movie is this?
Despicable Me.
Oh, yeah. We let Andy go first. All right. So I will go next. Despicable Me. This is like a hard special edition. Where I take the banker storyline out.
Get the whole movie.
Vector. I take Vector and I make him a hero who's fighting Gru, who's maybe getting assistance from like an evil overlord or something.
Yeah. Okay.
I make Gru be the person that stole the pyramid. I make him like a more successful villain. I take out the stuff with his mom because we don't really need it.
You mean Julie Andrews?
Yeah, Julia Andrews.
Dubai?
Yeah. So I guess that I like the idea of Gru. I like the girls. I like the scenes where he interacts with the girls at first, where he's like, "It's a bowl full of candy. What do you need?" I like these things.
Bada bing, bada boom. I'm not from here.
Here's what I do. I take this movie and I give it to Sergio Pablos to remake himself with his production company. Because I feel like he could do something better with it.
Yeah. So in that vein, I actually think this is a better TV series than a movie.
Oh.
Because in each episode, he could have the villain thing that he's trying to do. And like maybe, right, like you would need a season or two for him to like adopt the girls, but maybe they're like the next door neighbors or something. And they kind of like half foil, but like, expose him to a side of the plan that he didn't realize at first. And he's like, oh, well, no, I can't do this. And then he like reharnesses whatever technology he was going to use to
like horsing around, but the horse is a supervillain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
That sounds great.
Is that BoJack Horseman?
Back in the 90s, BoJack was on a very famous TV show.
Yeah. Kate, I like this a lot. Like,
I think it gives you context for his villainy, right? In a way that the movie does not do.
Exactly.
And
like
we've seen
something could happen to the parents, or the parents could like be worse than him. So he's like,
and you have time. You would have time to develop all those things, right? Mom isn't in every episode, but it could be a thing that's also happening throughout the season. And the minions are a B plot every time, right? Like,
and like
you can do all the things that this movie is trying to do, but you just have more space to use them when you need to and ignore them when there's something more important going on.
There are so many like cartoon shows where there's like a superhero and like a superhero adult that has kids for some reason, like
DuckTales is kind of
DuckTales is kind of, but like there's just like the Transformers, there's like a human kid involved, or like, because creators were like, well, if there's not a kid in there, kids won't like it.
How will the kid know who to pay attention to?
Yeah, how will they know? So like you've got plenty to, or you got dumb. Like My Little Pony and Megan, obviously. So you've got like a lot of stuff to work with as like a send up of like Saturday morning cartoon shows where the villain is the star instead of the hero. That's fun.
Well, okay. I won't get us off topic. I was going to say, actually, but I won't.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well,
we did it.
Hey, we made it.
Congratulations.
Note to self. Those were just normal claps, not claps that mean I have to edit something. Cool. So, hey, if you, Andy, or anyone else out there wants to contact Cellmates Podcast, you can do so. Cellmates Podcast on Twitter, Cellmates Podcast on Facebook, Cellmates Podcast at gmail.com, where we are getting a lot of spam. So if you don't hear back from us, send us another email. And also we have a website.
Kate's personal number, which is...
Yeah, actually, yeah. You can reach out to us there. It's really...
5555.
Damn it, Andy. Doxed us.
Oh, sorry. Just edit this out. Peanut butter sandwiches. There we go. You can insert that in.
Andy, thank you so much for being on the episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm done with class for the semester and for a little bit, so if you want to do this again, let me know.
We're not going anywhere.
Do you have official podcast social media and emails to share that we can contact you with?
If you want to sporadically see partial Gundams being modeled and completed, you can find me at Legend of Samwise on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't do a good job of that. It's just like, oh man, this is really cool. Look at this arm bend. And then it's like another Gundam is being partially built. So,
hey.
I have aspirations.
So if you want to see some good arm bends, everyone.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, especially on the Master Grade Barbados. So cool.
Hey, Andy, would you also like to plug any YouTube channels while you're here?
I mean, not mine, but I can plug a few if you want.
I mean, there's one in particular that I was thinking about.
Caravan of Garbage? Is that what you're thinking about?
Not at all.
What? Are we talking about?
Oh, we are talking about the Marble Olympics.
Are we talking about marbles?
This is my least favorite family joke. I'm just going to lean into at this point because fuck it. I tried. Look, so I have a bad issue of like stream of consciousness that I'm like, oh, this relatively sounds like what they're talking about. Let me add my input. There's this guy.
We were talking in a car about Lindsay Ellis's Transformers videos.
We're talking about a YouTube video essayist
where she talks about Transformers through a feminist lens, and Andy pops in and he goes, "Oh, speaking of marbles."
I don't remember talking like that.
But then you go on to like explain the Marble Olympics for 10 straight minutes,
and we're like, what does that have to do with?
And we can't see what you're talking about. We're just in a car, so
It was amazing. And I thank you.
I brought it up because it was taking a topic that's not usually associated with another topic and making it interesting.
Transformers, feminism, Marble Olympics. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Marble Olympics. Look, we're out of time.
But I have like several people. It's a quarantine thing now. Like several people who are not you, Andy, have mentioned Marble Olympics to me in the last like 2 months.
Yeah,
I feel ahead of the curve because I knew about it in December.
Yeah,
or early September or something.
2018.
And we don't need to flatten the curve of Marble Olympics. That one can grow.
Grow that curve there. No, it's such an interesting concept of like this guy's doing like quote unquote professional like Olympic or like sports commentary on marbles running through like Lego models that he's made. So it's just silly, but like he takes it seriously. So that's just I appreciate that of like
I mean, I would say Marble Olympics, it is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like
that. It's marbles like running down a ramp and seeing who's gonna get there first. Like and it's actually you get invested in it, which is not something that you would think about, but
we watched a surprising amount of it.
Yeah. They have a relay race. Like he has a little like ruler set out. Then like he sets all the marbles free. It's like who goes the farthest. So it's
a blast.
It's weird for sure. But if you got nothing else to do, if you've reached the end of the internet, go back to that.
All right. Well, hey, for Cellmates Podcast, I'm Dick Ward.
I'm Kate Phillips.
I'm Andy Phillips.
That's true. And we're Cellmates Podcast. That was weird. Bye.
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 Okay, and...
I see Andy's peaks are the biggest. Is that a problem?
Your peaks are the biggest,
Your
actually.
Your peaks are the biggest right now. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Your
peaks are bigger by far.
Do you see
Not
that?
what I... Yeah, I see...
Are you confusing height with width?
Yes.
Good.
Andy's are the tallest.
Yes, that means they're the biggest.
Well, what does that mean?
What?
That means that his has the most sound.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying.
Wait, no. The fact that his are widest means that he is talking longer.
I'm talking longer.
Yeah, I know. But on my screen, at least, my heights are... Okay, great.
I'm going to adjust the volume when we are done. I'm still going to
now you're
pull
very
this down
loud.
and edit it.
Yep. Okay.
Let's leave this in.
How about now?
That's
is this better?
So much better.
Okay.
Can you guys add a visual to your podcast of the sound wave?
Yeah, we'll just get the lines.
Bloop bloop.
Bloop.